there's some drug ring type stuff going on with the Angels. If you want to give us the details on that.
Yeah, so anybody who is unaware, a few years ago, there was a pitcher by the name of Tyler Skaggs. He was a pitcher for the Angels. They were on a road trip down in Texas. They came to his room and they found him unresponsive and declared him dead at the scene. Following an autopsy and toxicology report, found that he had overdosed on a mixture of oxycodone, fentanyl, and alcohol. This obviously is a very sad story, but this is one that we've seen kind of happen before to professional athletes, people in pop culture that, you know, they like to party, they like to do some things, and they do too much and they end up dying. Well, there is a lot of other things that are coming out about this story now. Tyler Skaggs was possibly being used by a member of this Angels organization as a middleman to peddle drugs through the organization. So there was an employee by the name of Eric K. He was in the media department, and he apparently was running a large drug ring. The federal government has found that they have 5 players who will testify to the fact that K provided them with drugs and that Skaggs was kind of used as a middleman. In some of the filings, you can see evidence will demonstrate that K was motivated to obtain these pills because K could himself use these pills and he could give them to other players. Also, I found it interesting in this, in some of these reports, some of these messages, they talk about Skaggs as a victim. So I understand the need to medicate and deal with pain. Okay, these guys are world-class professional athletes. I don't care what you guys think about baseball. You may think it's not that hard. These guys are fucking world-class athletes, and they play 162 games a year. They need to find a way to cope with pain. Okay, based on some of the things that I've read in this report from Yahoo Sports, I feel like Tyler Skaggs kind of got mixed up with the wrong guy. He was not necessarily a drug abuser. He was somebody who was looking to manage pain.
Yeah, it's saying that he asphyxiated, so choked on his own vomit. So it wasn't like just necessarily a traditional overdose where like the body shuts down. Like his body was rejecting it and he was not conscious.
Yeah, he wasn't taking a massive amount to get messed up. I think he was taking what he thought was a proper amount. However, this guy K got some oxycodone that was laced with fentanyl. And anybody who knows anything about the opioid world will tell you that fentanyl is probably one of the worst things that you could have introduced to your system, especially if you don't know it's in there.
Yeah, there's arguments out there right now by drug research agencies and stuff like that who are actually for the legalization of like all drugs, saying that oxy and those opioids themselves aren't necessarily so bad, but it's the injection of the fentanyl into that system and those drugs that are making them very lethal. And then that sort of cocktail of oxy, fentanyl, and alcohol is known to be fatal. That it can be something where you can be taking that combination for a while and then out of nowhere it'll drop you dead.
Yeah. And fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is I don't even understand why the fuck it exists. I feel like there are other medications that will do something very similar. Opioids in this country
we're talking about pharma, man.
Yeah. Opioids in this country are already a massive issue, right? My uncle died from an opioid addiction. Had a car accident, became addicted, and then ultimately ended up killing him. These drugs are awful, but players, I understand, need to find a way to deal with pain. In the NFL, they'll give you the needle, right? Now they're trying to use non-narcotics now, which is good.
Yeah, they're opening up more of the opportunity to use like medicinal marijuana and things like that, which I'm all for, because that's not a performance enhancer.
No, it's
It could
not.
be argued that it is a
Only
performance
if you're on
decreaser.
the fucking Olympic committee would you say it's an enhancer.
Right. I mean, that the prosecutors have come forward and said that basically, even with what he was taking, if it wasn't for the fentanyl, it would not be a lethal combination.
No, so
Which is that's the thing, is not to promote opioid use or
no.
addiction or anything like that. Of course, like I get what you're saying completely. We should be trying to find ways for our athletes to recover and take care of their body, because for so long, athletes have been seen as objects. They are there for our entertainment. We don't really care what they do off the field. We don't really care what they're doing to their bodies, as long as they go out on the field and they perform for us and they provide entertainment.
Yeah.
And we need to start really viewing them as people. They have bodies, they have families, they need to take care of themselves, and finding the healthiest and most effective ways to do that needs to be a focus for not just the MLB, for all leagues out there.
Yeah, there needs to be a study on ways that you can reduce inflammation, pain, and honestly, we already have one, but for some reason it's still illegal
Yeah.
in most states, and that's marijuana. Now, I'm not saying go out and smoke weed. Okay, I'm not advocating for people to go and smoke weed, but it has been shown to help. Now, Major League Baseball has taken some steps in that right direction where they no longer test for marijuana. Same thing with the NFL. That wasn't the case at this time.
Yeah. And this is just a story that we've seen too often. This is obviously a guy who, to me, oxy, fentanyl, alcohol, that doesn't spell party atmosphere to
No.
me. That is, he's treating himself.
Yes.
And if a person is treating themselves basically off label or without full doctor consent, that's an issue. These players shouldn't have to be resorting to sidebar methods of keeping themselves healthy and safe. So it's really unfortunate. It's going to be really interesting to see how this turns out. I mean, the Angels do seem like they're going to be at least attempt to be held liable for this, because it was
and
a
the
team
Angels are
employee.
very much fighting that. I think they're going to try to push all this off on Kay himself, but the Angels employed Kay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Kay goes, I hope that they find him guilty and they lock his ass away for a very long time. I have no sympathy for drug dealers, especially when you're talking about opioids and fucking, especially fentanyl. Like, it's just, this is such a sad situation. I'm glad that it's kind of come out that Tyler was not a recreational drug user. By all accounts, this doesn't seem like a recreational drug use. And I hope that his family can kind of, you know, make their case and get some relief knowing that Tyler did not, do this because he was a drug addict.
Yeah, it is sad. It's a story that we've too often heard, that too often has gotten pushed under the rug, because, again, we've looked at athletes as objects and not worried about their life outside of the sport. I'm glad that these sorts of things are becoming more mainstream, as far as us being able to talk about it and not talk about it as like, oh, just another tragic death and here's our next game.
Right.
We, as a community, as a society, need to focus more on individual health, mental health, physical health, things like that, and taking care of one another, really. So, it's good that there's going to potentially be some sort of resolution to this, that this story isn't just going to die, and that it's going to kind of hopefully champion some change. But yeah, overall, it's really unfortunate how it turned out, but hopefully we can get some positives out of this, like it seems like the family wants.